Alright, let's talk about something here that I call the power of a common denominator. What do I mean by that? Now, some of you are going to remember back in your math classes in probably junior high and high school, at least maybe grade school. And you're going to remember what denominators are. But a lot of us don't. You know, for many of us, high school was a long time ago. Okay? But a denominator is a number in a fraction that's the bottom number below the line. And if you remember right, it's very difficult to add, subtract, multiply, or divide with fractions if you don't have the same denominator number below the line. For instance, it's very complicated to try to add 7/8 with 3/4 because the numbers on the bottom aren't the same. And so you need to get them into equal parts so that the fraction actually represents the same number of an equal part of the bottom. I probably really confused you there. That's why I'm not a math teacher, okay? But the idea of having a common denominator between the two numbers then makes them compatible to put in the equation and solve the problem. And I like to compare that to situations that we find ourselves in, because very often, it's kind of funny. A couple of years ago, I ran into a friend of mine at a gas station that I hadn't seen for 2 or 3 years. And this person had been a fairly close friend of our family at some time. But as I sat there and talked to her and asked her, so what's been going on in your life? And she started telling me about all of these different experiences that she'd been having. And the experiences all had an interesting thread running through them, and that they were all things that resulted in her telling somebody off because they got on her bad side and stepped on her toes or whatever. And yeah, we did this over the school and my kids were getting taken advantage of, and so I finally just told the principal to, you know, or I bought this something over at the store and it really didn't do what I wanted to, and I went back there and they wanted to cheat me out of my money and blah, 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 and so I told the principal or the store owner to I'd never coming back here again. Or I went down here and a cop pulled me over. I don't even know why he pulled me over. It was blah, 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 blah. By the time I got done with him, he had me almost slapped in jail, and I told him to. And as I sat there talking to her, first off, I'm the kind of person who tries not to be offensive, so I didn't want to go, do you realize what's going on here? Do you not see a common thread running through all these things? But that's really the common denominator concept. And for her, the whole world of this little community that we live in was the most backwards, bigoted, backwoodsy bunch of bums that we ever could have possibly associated with. Everybody's a loser around here. And I'm going, I thought you and I lived in the same community, because I run into a whole bunch of wonderful people. I love living here because the people are wonderful. They treat me well. They do nice things for me and everything else. So I had to ask her. Not ask her, but I wish I could have asked her. So do you see a common thread running through all of this? And her mind's going to go, yeah, that guy's a jerk, and that guy's a jerk, and that store owner's a jerk, and that cop's a jerk, and the policeman over here's a jerk, and the postman's a jerk, and whatever. And I'm going, that's not reality. You can't line up that many different people and have them all be jerks. So there's a common denominator in all of these equations. What is it? What's the common factor in all of those situations that you described to me? Was it the other person you were dealing with? Was it the setting you were dealing with them in? No. What was the common factor, the common denominator? It was her. And I see this happening a lot. I run into people who their whole world stinks. just like this lady. Everybody's against me. The whole world hates me. And I'm going, are there not other people who live in the same world with you who feel like life's great? And they're interacting with the same people you are. Why the difference? And this is a concrete principle that we have to look at in every area of our lives. If our lives are full of bad experiences with other people and bad things happen to us all the time, we have to understand we're the common denominator. There's got to be something that we're doing that's causing all of that negative to happen to us all the time. And a lot of people call it the law of attraction. I have some positive and negatives to say about that, but it's really, we are attracting negative to us. But more important than that is maybe we're about as snuggly as a porcupine. I have other friends who, I actually have a relative who wonders why I don't ever want to associate with them in a family setting. And it's because it's like hugging a porcupine. Anytime I'm around them, it's a constant series of griping and complaining and criticizing other people and even criticizing me and complaining about things that I do, to the point where it's like, I don't want to be around you because I feel like every time I do, I come away poked full of porcupine quills. And that's not a pleasant thing. And I like to enjoy people that I'm around. And so if you're a person like this who is always surrounding yourself with this kind of things, you have to understand that people want to enjoy their interactions with other people. And if you're not the type of person who cuts other people some slack and makes room in your relationships for them to make a mistake once in a while, and if you're not kind and friendly and loving and outgoing to people, they're not going to be attracted to you. They're going to be repelled from you. And you're going to find yourself literally with very few friends. And more than likely, the friends that you will find who do spend time with you are the ones who are willing to sit around and commiserate with you and say, yeah, I had that bad thing happen, and I had that bad thing happen to me, and yeah, you're right over there, and that was bad. But the people who are out having a great life and enjoying living in the same community you do, they're not going to want to spend time with you because it's painful, literally painful. And that's a picture that we've got to look at in our personalities and say, well, yeah, that is interesting. And if somebody ever points that out to you and says, well, what's the common denominator in all those interactions you're complaining about, and you take an honest look at it and go, it was me, then what's the solution? Me has to change. Me has to grow. I have to learn how to become a better person, to become the kind of person that doesn't run around poking everybody with my porcupine quills. How does that happen? It happens first by exercising some self-control, and then by educating ourselves. Because what's happening to that friend of mine that I described is she's not got any positive input into her life anymore. She's not the type of person who would go out and read a book about how to win friends and influence people. That would be foreign to her. It would be the dumbest thing anybody ever suggested. And yet it's what she needs more than anything else. But there are a tremendous amount of great books on that subject to read. There's more recordings on that than you can possibly imagine. Come to our website, listen to the things that we've made about it, and grow from it. But start looking for those little flaws in your character and in your personality that really are harmful to relationships around you, and work on changing them. It can be done. Some of it's hard, yeah, I agree, but it's worth it. Can you imagine 5 years from now if you could turn around and talk to that same lady and she'd made a concerted effort to change, and she could now go, you know what, I really do live in a great community. I love the people around me. They're awesome. They treat me wonderfully. I feel great. And she's going to have 10 times as many friends because they'll be willing to spend time with her again. So that's the power of this. If you're the common denominator in all your situations, how are those situations turning out, and are you happy with it? Think about that.